Hi everyone, welcome to another episode in this video series where we look at Figma. And in Figma, in each and every video, what we do is we look at a reference image and we try and illustrate that image. But along the way, the purpose of these videos is to learn something about Figma and and just upskill ourselves a bit. So in this video, I thought let's take a look at this image again once again. This image is from unsplash.com, so I might leave a link to this image in the description of this video. But I thought, okay, let's take a look at this image and let's try and illustrate it. So what we're looking here is obviously for the object itself, which seems like a clay. It's sort of like a clay texture, but it's actually the object itself is a wine glass. And so let's take a look at it and see how we would illustrate this object. Now I'm thinking we'll learn two different things in this video. Number one, we'll take a look at masks in Figma, and second, we'll take a look at a linear fill instead of a solid fill. And in this video I'll talk about it, and I'll tell you what I mean by those two terms. So don't worry, just stick around and you'll find out what mask and linear fill is. So let's start drawing this object. Like with any other video, what we do is we try and decrease the opacity a little bit, so just while we get our objects in place, and then we figure out what type of object do we use. So do we just take a pen tool from the toolbar here and start drawing, or do we make use of an existing shape? And in this case, I am thinking that it might be a better idea to use an existing shape. And this is, apart from these curves here and the shape, the angle of this, apart from that, it's pretty much just a rectangle. So let's try with a rectangle. So I have this rectangle here. Now what I'll do is I'll hold the Alt key and I'll drag this dot a little bit inside, and let's see if I give this maybe 150. Ooh, might be too much. Maybe 60, and then I can also I can take this dot and drag it inside, or here in the right sidebar I can adjust one of these three different values, and basically whatever I click, this icon here shows me which curve or which edge I'm modifying. So in this case it is the bottom right, this one is top left, this one is top right. So this icon tells you which field you should be updating. So in this case I want to modify the bottom left. There you go. This looks like a glass. Now we'll give this angle, right? So it's not a straight glass, so let's double click it and then just extend it a bit, and extend this a bit as well, and let's reduce the size a bit. So we can always scale it up and down, but as long as let me just change the color so it's easier to see. There you go. So we can always scale up and down a bit, so that's not an issue. But in general, I think we've got the shape almost right, maybe a little bit more. But we can always play around with it. Now in terms of these edges, round edges, now let's say if you click back here, we might not be able to, you might not see the dots anymore. But if you do want to adjust these border radius, you just double click it and then click on the dot, and whatever edge you're clicking on. So if you're clicking on the bottom left dot, then or circle, then this is what you would be updating. And similar for this as well. So you just update the value. So that's how you would update the border radius after changing the shape. Now what we want to do is, let's bring this back. Let's bring this, make it 100. Now what we want to do is, we will try and color this. Color it with the same shade at least, and try to match it as per the image as much as possible at least. Now if you have watched a previous video where I looked at where I talked about illustrating a balloon, we used something called layer blur, and in this case we might be able to use that because it sort of has the same gradient, light to dark fading, so we might be able to use that. But we'll also take a look at um, a linear fill instead of a solid fill. So first what we'll do is, we'll keeping this as the base, what we'll do is we'll color this with the base color. So in this case it's easier to add the white part has the highlight, so that will be the layer on top. But what we'll do is, so we'll color this, use this color as the base. So I'm going to take the color picker and I'm going to keep it here and just use this as a color. So this is the base. Now what I'm going to do is, I'm going to take another rectangle and just place it on top of this, make it white color and give it that same angle. And now we will use the layer blur effect. Make this maybe 50. So you can see we are starting to see that transition here. So that is good. We can always keep adjusting this if you want. But now the problem with this, and if I actually increase the background here, make the background, the problem with this, you'll see that this is overflowing. The blur is overflowing outside the object itself. So we want it to be contained inside the object. So first of all, let's rename this. So this is our base and this is the blur. So in this case, for this scenario where you want to contain the this white rectangle on top, you want to contain it in the shape of the base, what you would do is, you would copy the base. So I made a duplicate here, base, copy, and then this copy, the base copy, you would use it as a mask. So you would click on this one, or obviously the keyboard shortcut, use this as a mask. And so then you see here on the left sidebar, you have a mask group, and the base is now in the mask group. So what this is, in the simplest terms, if I have to explain, this becomes sort of like a cookie cutter container, or maybe just the cookie cutter itself. And if you place any object inside this cookie cutter, it basically gets cut off really. And so the edges gets cut off. So what remains is the area that is inside the cookie cutter. So that's basically an explanation for mask, or a mask group, or making an object a mask, turning an object into a mask. So now if you look at the image and if you compare it with this, you'll see that now it looks a lot more similar than what it was before. And obviously the reason is because we have used it as a mask and we have sort of cut the unwanted area outside of this class. Now the second thing we want to experiment here is with linear fill. Now I've been talking about this, so let's look at what it is. So if I look at the base, so I'm not looking at the base copy, I'm looking at the base which is outside the mask group. I want to click on that, and in this drop down, from solid, I'll turn it to linear. And now I will start off with it being the original color, and the end one I will click on this. So this is the end side of the linear um, gradient, and then using the color picker, I'll just pick a lighter color here. So now that I've got both these sides, I just have to adjust this. I just have to put the darker side on the right, the lighter side on the left. And then depending on how you want the curve to be, or the linear um, graph to be in terms of the color that you're getting, you can either drag this out so this becomes more lighter, or drag this in, which makes it more darker, and then you can adjust that accordingly. So just keep it. So that's according to your preference, of obviously, but and then what you're designing. But I think I'll just keep it at this. Might just keep it at this. Yeah, that should be fine. And probably even change the blur, the size of the blur a little bit. So decrease this so it shows our linear fill a little bit better, because in the original size it was more bright, so you want to keep it a little bit smaller or thinner so that it just acts as a highlight instead of the actual color itself. And we can always adjust the height as well, so we know that the light is coming from the top left. So perhaps this might work. And then of course you can always adjust the blur itself depending on how you want the colors to be. So obviously this looks more realistic now, and especially when you compare it with the original object or original image. Now similar to this, we have added a blur on the left, so let's rename this to left blur. Let me create a copy and see if I can place this on the right. Let's see how it looks like. So I'll rotate this, make it a bit more thinner and smaller, and place it here at the bottom on the top, because I can see the reference image. There's a fine highlight here towards the edge. So let's try and use that. I think that should work. So the strong light is really coming from the left, the top left, I think. I don't know how this image was clicked, but if I look at the shadow of the image as well, it's on the right. That means the light would have come from the left, potentially from the top, given how much darkness the shadow has. If the light was near, then the shadow would have been much darker. So that's what I was getting at. So top left and a little bit of highlight from the right hand side as well. So that's essentially what really I wanted to show in this video, wanted to demonstrate in this video. One is the mask. So the use of a mask group, and the easiest way to remember what a mask group is, think of it as a cookie cutter. So everything that falls inside the cookie cutter will stay, and the rest of it will be trimmed out. Now, having said that, you can drag an element out of the mask group, just put it out, and then it'll completely retain shape, so it is not getting completely cut off. It's not getting permanently cut off. So you can always undo this by just dragging an element outside of the mask group. So that's your cookie cutter / mask group. And the second thing that we learned in this video was the linear fill. So instead of using a solid fill, we used a linear fill and gave this image a little bit more of a um, realistic uh, background or realistic color. And actually, we learned another thing. So the third thing that we learned is the border radius of this image, of this object. And so obviously, when you create an image, when when you use a rectangle from this toolbar, the dots are visible, so it's very easy to just update this thing as and when you want. But of course, once you change the shape of this rectangle or any other object that you pick up from this toolbar, then obviously that those dots disappear. And so the way you do that is by actually double clicking this and then clicking on one of these dots in the corners and then changing the radius. So those are the three things that we looked at. Now let's go ahead and complete the rest of this image. So what we have left is obviously the handle of this or the base of this glass, and of course the actual base itself. So let's do this. I might fast forward the remainder of this video, and so you don't have to watch me completely design this. So try and fast forward it. There you go. I've completed this illustration, and potentially didn't even take me too long, but and you know I'm pretty sure you would have seen all of this in fast forward, but you would have noticed that I followed the same patterns for the stand here and in the base of the cup as well, only it's different shapes. So this is a rectangle, this is a circle, but if you see um, the pattern here, it's still the same. I've used multiple mask groups, and I've done the same sort of layer blur and um, even used a linear fill. The inside of the cup was quite interesting, something that I did not actually expect. Um, if I look at, yep, there you go, this one. So this is just a single ellipsis that is just placed correctly in the at the rim of this shape. But the reason it has this effect, it actually looks like um, there's it actually looks like a real glass and or real cup, like and with some depth, and there might be something inside. But the reason for that is again a linear fill. I was just surprised myself by the angle of this. By adjusting the angle, it actually gave this effect. If I would have kept it at the straight horizontal angle, then it might have not given this effect. But this is a slightly tilted angle, and this has given me this wonderful effect. It looks like this glass is actually, there's some depth inside this, so that was really good. And then of course, like with all the other designs, what we've done is I've uh, put this entire image into an Instagram post, and so that I can share this on social media. And I would encourage you to follow along or design along and share it on your page as well, and just post a link to that social media post in the comments of this video. Now, what I've done here is just going by the same theme of this image, of this reference image. What I've done is I have again given a linear fill to the background, darker on the right, a little bit lighter on the left. And then just to give this table effect, uh, sort of a table effect here. Obviously, there's no actual table here, or at least we can't see. But what might be there? Obviously a base here, and then something has to be separating the background. So it could be just a chart paper that has been placed while clicking the photograph. But for us, just to give a little bit of a differentiation, what it is, I've added a rectangle here, um, just to show the table where this class is kept, and given a little bit of linear fill as well. Might adjust the linear fill a little bit more and just play around with the angle and see what works out. But I think otherwise, if nothing else works out, I think I'm happy with this image. I think it's pretty good. The main object of this design is this glass, and the glasses turned out pretty decent. And so overall, I think I'm happy with how this post has turned out. So there you go, another episode number 6 of this design in Figma series, and we illustrated a chalice or a wine cup and or glass. And yeah, we learned 3 things. One is linear fill, then we learned mask group, and then we also learned border radius, setting the border radius of a shape. There you go, those 3 things, we learned something new. That's it for this video, really. If you do like this video, please give it a thumbs up and let me know that you actually like this video. Put it in the comments. Put your thoughts into the comments. Let me know what you think about it. And as I said, if you post it on social media, if you design something and post it on social media, please put it in the comments, and I'll check it out. And do subscribe to this channel so that you will see more of my videos, upcoming videos appear on your YouTube feed. And thanks for watching. And do stick around for more videos. And yeah, thanks for watching. And definitely see you in another video. All right. See ya.